Hi, guys. You know who I am. I am Keisha Harvey, your leadership coach. I wanted to talk about a very important topic with you today. You ever remember when you were growing up and you would take something of your siblings and your mom would say, "Put that back, that's not yours"? Well, that's kind of what we're talking about, right? But from a leadership perspective, I know it's a bit weird. We don't typically talk about putting something back from a space of leadership, but we will today. I, of course, am a leadership coach. I see lots of individuals related to things that have to do with boundaries, right? In general. I know it's a weird way of looking at leadership, but we are talking about operating the space of that's not yours. It has to do with establishing boundaries in order to establish balance in your life as a leader. A leader's roles, responsibilities, obligations, they stretch wide, right? And at times it can be unpredictable and at some point exhausting. I can't tell you the amount of leaders that I talk to that most of the time they are feeling exhausted, overwhelmed, just overextended. I'm sure I have lots of leaders in here that relate to feeling exhausted. My mom, that I talk to my dear mom every day, and one of the things she says when I first log in or start talking to her is, I know you're tired. It's not really a compliment, right? It's not a badge of honor for someone to recognize that you're always tired. And some of us, we've gotten so used to it that we just think it's normal. Well, I'm here to tell you that it's not. It shouldn't be, right? When we look at the definition in the dictionary of exhaustion, it literally means drained of one's physical or mental resources, very tired. It's not a badge of honor, right? It's a very difficult way to function on a regular basis. Another definition would be when you are feeling depleted, right? Completely used up of all of your resources and your reserves. Am I talking to you? I'm talking to you, my leader that is feeling completely depleted. And the end result of exhaustion is due to an individual giving more than what they have, right? And we tend to do that as leaders. We're giving more of our mind and our body than what we can actually give. And we get to the point where we're beyond tired. The very synonym of the word exhausted is meaning that you are feeling depleted. You're empty, drained, used up, consumed, impoverished, spent. These are not good words when it comes down to being a leader. I can tell myself that I am feeling exhausted, that I am feeling depleted, that I've given more of myself than I should as a leader when my mood changes, right? When I am annoyed by the things that are normal things that people may normally ask for from me, and I'm irritated. I'm annoyed in my normal day to day task. And that is a sign to me, to my body, to my mind that I am feeling depleted. Is that you? Listen, we believe as leaders that we have to be exhausted in order to be effective, which is completely false, right? It's not a good thought process. It's not true. As a matter of fact, it renders the opposite effect. It leads to the outcome of being ineffective because when you're exhausted, you can't show up at 100%. You're depleted. Another synonym of the word is frazzled. Have you ever seen a leader that looked frazzled? Have you ever yourself presented in a space where you were frazzled and afterward you thought to yourself, oh my God, I really didn't have that together? It was because if you started out from a place of depleted, the only thing that you could give is really presenting as a frazzled individual, not someone that has it together, certainly not a leader that is showing up at 100% in that space, right? It's the opposite effect when we allow ourselves to get so exhausted that we are depleted. Can you remember a time where you had a meeting that you were supposed to be at and you worked to exhaustion and you started kind of pulling things together in a hurry? Maybe you found out about the meeting at the last minute, but you were already depleted. You were already exhausted. You were already operating on empty. So the way that presented to other people was probably not your best and certainly not the way you wanted to represent yourself in that setting. Why is this important? That's why I'm here, right? That's what we're talking about. I'm glad you asked. It means that you're off balance. That's what that means, right? When you're off balance, you are giving others what you cannot give, what you don't have, right? What does not belong to them sometimes. I have found myself in the state where someone is, let's say I had a client that was calling me repeatedly And I was getting very annoyed with that client because I found times where people are demanding my time in spaces where it does not belong to them, right? I have designated times and spaces for clients, for leadership tasks, for things with my family. When they start to clash, right, where that person is demanding my time in the space that's not theirs, right? That, let's say it's the space for my family. Let's say it's after hours at 8:45. I had a client that was calling me at 8:45 on a Saturday, and oh boy, was I annoyed. And when I thought about it, right, why does this annoy me? Which obviously it's not business hours, it's not appropriate time to be calling me. But when I really sat with it and thought about why does this annoy me to the point where I can't stop thinking about it like frequently until I can't even go to sleep, it's because that person is in the time and space that does not belong to them, right? You cannot give what you do not have. And the thing about it is, here's the thing about leadership. And even if you're an entrepreneur, you're a business owner, you're a C-suite leader, here's the thing about it. When we are operating in that space, right, we're in the gift, we're in our groove, we're in our zone, right, we have hit our stride. People recognize it. What's the response? They want more of it, right? They start demanding more of our time, and as leaders, we want to give it. Why? Because especially if you're new in leadership, it makes you excited and special. You feel special. You feel blessed. I'm in this space, right? People want my time and attention and my wisdom. People want to talk to me. People want what I have to offer. That's great, right? That's the end result we all want. But guess what? You can't give what you don't have. You must do the 3 R's that I think are very important for my leaders. You must replenish. You have to refill. You have to rejuvenate. If you don't do those things, eventually the tank becomes empty, right? This happens no matter who you are, that these are imperative to how we operate as leaders. You see, I'm not only a leadership coach, but I'm a therapist. And there have been many times in my life in which clients, coworkers, staff, supervisors, they've demanded my time and attention relentlessly. And regardless of how I felt or what I needed, or if I felt that I could give it, they were demanding it. Have you ever told your boss or your client, I have a doctor's appointment at 10 a.m.? I'll be there as soon as I get out of the doctor's appointment. And they call you at 10:15 and ask, are you finished yet? I want to talk to you. Have you ever been off of work and on paid time off? How many of my leaders even know what that means? PTO actually stands for paid time off. Some of us think it means something else. Many of you are looking at me like, what's that? Right? What's PTO? Especially if you're a leader, especially if you're an entrepreneur, especially if you're a business owner. You pride yourself like a badge of honor of burning the midnight oil. But we all need time out to replenish, right? What's the 3 R's? What do you remember the 3 R's to be? Replenish, refill, rejuvenate, right? Some of us go on vacation. We have the nerve to get on the beach and say we're going on vacation, and the first thing we think about is, I'm just going to take one more meeting, just a few calls. I'm just going to find a hot spot and take this meeting real quick. You've paid thousands of dollars to be on vacation to work. You could have done that at home, right? What's the point of taking PTO? Does this sound familiar? Is this you? I can hear some of you taking a few deep breaths. I can feel the emotion behind it as you flash back to the many, many times that this was your story, to the point that it's just become normal. What do you feel? When you think about the last time you were on vacation, and some of you, that was a long time ago, what do you feel? Anger, frustration, helplessness, obligation? Here's the big word: guilt. Many of us as leaders feel guilty for taking time off to take care of ourselves. So we keep pulling from a well that is empty. Guilt. Guilt to whom? Yourself? For always allowing this repeated situation. Guilt to your spouse because he or she is always having to understand. Guilt to your children because they have to learn to adapt and thrive without you, with a partially or never present parent. That is a big deal, right? When I got my master's in business, I had a professor that said that he learned his lesson as a leader, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, that he lost some things, some very important things in his life. And one of those things was his wife. And he realized that how much am I willing to sacrifice, right? He started asking himself the question, how much am I willing to sacrifice for this thing, for this role, right? For this business, for this position, for this money? How much am I willing to sacrifice? So when he remarried, he realized that there was a cost too heavy for him. And some of us don't know where that line is, right? And the result is guilt. I can hear some of your thoughts. No, for real. Like words kind of floating out of your head like a Charlie Brown cartoon. Keisha, your thoughts are screaming, I'm a leader. I'm in charge. I'm a CEO. I'm a founder, a CFO, a COO. I'm a big deal. Don't get me wrong. I understand that as leaders, executives, C suite leaders, we carry a heavier weight with greater obligation. Of course, we do. It does require a sacrifice sometimes. But to the point of being depleted, empty, gassed, debilitated, that's not where we should be as leaders, right? We need to be seeking balance. That's why I'm here. Here's a little secret that no one will ever tell you. If you fail to make the decisions to put boundaries in place for yourself now, you won't be able to make the decisions for yourself later. You will therefore live your life as a CEO, a founder, a CFO, a COO, being depleted, empty, exhausted, and eventually ineffective. Have you ever met leaders that are talented in many different ways, but they're not effective? What that means is that they've lost their balance, right? They've lost the line between where they take care of themselves and the areas of their lives where they refill and they rejuvenate and they replenish. And they just think, oh, I could just keep going. I can just do this for a couple more years. I've actually heard that from leaders. I figured that if I can just do this for 2 more years and then, well, what if in 2 years you lose your health? You lose your spouse. Your kids don't talk to you anymore, right? What if you lose very important parts of your life and become ineffective at the end of it? That the end result is not what you were looking for. Leadership requires us to recognize the spaces and the places in which we designate our time and energy. The recognition allows us to show up as our best selves in that space because we are designating energy at the time that it's appropriate to the audience that is meant for. The recognition also allows you to use our boundaries to tell others to put that back. That's not yours. When others are pulling from an energy bank or a time that does not belong to them. Some of you are thinking, Keisha, what do you mean? Okay, I'm glad you asked. I'll break it down. I was working full time in private practice, seeing patients, which required a lot of my time and energy. And of course, I was taking care of patients, right? That's my role. I quickly realized that although the job of taking care of patients was extremely important, there had to be designated time and space for me, for my family, for my husband, for my kids, right? And all of these different facets of my life. Therefore, those designated times and spaces were within my work hours. You see, I was in private practice. And at this phase of my life, I was not on call, not working in a hospital, not working for the state, not obligated to corporate, right? I've done all of those things. I've been in all of those settings. I know what they require. I was an independent contractor, which was a deliberate choice at this time in my life. There were times, however, when coworkers, colleagues, patients were demanding my time outside of the designated space. What did that look like? I'll tell you. Text messages at 11 p.m. on a Sunday, phone calls back to back at 6 p.m. on a Saturday, emails and calls from colleagues requesting my time and my attention at times that weren't necessarily designated for them. Even calls from colleagues or coworkers or supervisors during client times where that time was designated for my client. It meant that I needed to create a different space at a different time to handle that because when I was seeing patients, that wasn't the time, right? Some of us are blurring the lines and trying to do everything at the same time. And you see, there's a designated time and place for everything. We've heard that many times. but you would be surprised how many times we don't actually apply it. We've all heard that, but we don't live by that. And then we become very frustrated or even angry when someone does not respect our time, our privacy, our boundaries. But remember, what you put out is what you get back, right? It means that I have had to establish my time periods for when I will turn my time and energy and attention to certain things, including my own self care. If I don't respect my own boundaries, as a leader, as a business owner, as an independent contractor, and I just kind of jump into here and here and here and there, I will be depleted and exhausted before you know it and not have much to give. And remember, the result is to become ineffective. I eventually came to terms with and okay with myself when I did not respond at times, right? I know most of you are like, what? What do you mean? Not responding, right? When you're a leader, you're an executive. What do you mean? Well, again, in order for others to respect my boundaries, I have to respect my own boundaries. And some of us don't even know what that boundary is, right? Unless it was an absolute emergency, my definition, not yours. I protected my time for my spouse and for my family, my time for leisure and enjoyment, my time to take care of myself, to rejuvenate, to refill, right? I protected that time to allow the outcome to be me showing up as my best self in each space at the correct time that I was supposed to be there. Some of us are superheroes. Therefore, we lend ourselves to everyone at all times. But have you ever met someone that was doing this and doing that, but they had a terrible attitude? Have you ever, their mood was always grumpy? Who wants to interact with that? Some of us are leaders and we're talented and we're in the spaces of operation, but no one likes us, right? Like you're generally unpleasant to be around. That is a sure sign that you're depleted and you're giving more than what you have to give. What matters, if you're wearing the cape, what does it matter if no one wants you to be around, right? Or no one desires to work with you? They respect your talent and they may even need it, but they may not like the person that you have become. You might not like the person that you have become. If you're a leader and your attitude and your mood is off putting, it's time to stop and reflect, rejuvenate, refill in order to show up as your best self. We use our negative emotions as justification to the demands that others place on us rather than developing and implementing boundaries, right? We start to use it as well. I'm in a bad mood because I've had to do X, Y, and Z. I'm agitated and I yelled at you because I have so much on my plate. But ultimately, your response and how you show up has to do with you as a leader. And so I'm saying to you that we need to get into the place as leaders that we are okay with telling others, put that back. It's not yours. If it's not the designated time and space to allow ourselves to grow and to replenish and to refill and to rejuvenate as leaders. I am your leadership coach, and I am here to help you gain balance in your life. Again, I am also a licensed clinician. And what we're talking about is dealing with our emotions, dealing with ourselves, dealing with the things that hinder us from showing up as our best selves. And so, hey, I'm talking to you. Let's get back in sync. Let's find your balance and your boundaries. Click on that link that's a part of this video and get on. Let's get into a call. Let's talk about it. I can help you. I look forward to meeting you. Goodbye.